Alabama, Kalen DeBoer talking about the football team and what he wants to get out of this offseason, getting ready for a very tough schedule. We're going to talk about it. Look who's here. Yeah, it's Jake Coker. You know him. It's the Bama Tailgate Show. Live. Well, not live, but we're at Pearl River Resort here in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and we're having a good time. So you guys like, subscribe, thumbs up, comment. The team's back together again on this channel. Shank coming up later this week. You know him. Roll Tide. All right, there he is, Jake Coker and Mick Gillespie with you at Pearl River, hanging out, talking Bama, having a good time. Let's get into a couple of topics on this show. And I want to start with this. They asked Kalen DeBoer at the coaches conference that they're having right now. Let me get the correct name for you. It's the SEC spring meetings. Like, what was the biggest challenge? Like, what would the Kalen DeBoer from today say to the Kalen DeBoer that took the job at Alabama? And basically, it was like the beginning piece was a little difficult because, trying to figure it all out. We lost people in the transfer portal, but we got the guys here are the guys that want to be here. What do you think of that?
We got the guys here that want to be here.
The guys that are here want to be here. You want me to read you the exact quote?
Yeah, I was about to say that was a little.
Oh boy, you can't. You're back on.
How many times have you reached in that cooler today?
I'm thirsty. I mean, what do like? That's
he said recruit the guys that want to be here. Is that right?
He said they lost some guys in the transfer portal, and the guys that want to be here, the guys that want to be here. Like the guys that are here. All right. DeBoer on what he would tell himself before he walked into the door year one at Alabama. I think a lot of it was just the early piece, just understanding what the timing of it was in January. I think the hardest part, the season and the ups and downs, I've been part of that. I think the first year is always extremely hard because there are going to be things that come your way that are going to be hard to handle.
I got it.
Look, I'm trying to. I don't have my glasses on. You're going to do this to me again. I'll enlarge it so I can see it better at my age.
Yeah. So basically, the turmoil right at the start. We knew that was going to happen.
Look at you now.
And then
all of a sudden you understand what the hell I'm talking about.
I understood it better. I understood it.
Stop touching me. You're in a different screen. You're supposed to be in a different screen.
The saddest part is I understood it better before you read it. When you were reading it, it was hard to understand.
Well, it's like you asked me to read. I'm like, I don't have my glasses on. I gotta make the font bigger. Are you happy now?
Yeah, sure.
This is the second time you've done this to me in the last week.
I mean,
I've really done it to myself, I guess.
So he's trying to tell himself that to expect some turmoil as soon as you come to Bama. The guys are going to leave, and it's going to be hard to control.
Or the guys that left, and then the guys that stayed because they wanted to be at Alabama.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it makes sense, But I don't think he probably felt that comfort until he saw those guys that stayed. During the spring practice areas or timing, saw everybody grow and develop and want to, uplift Alabama. I think you learned a lot in that off-season period during spring training. When those guys leave and you kind of start solidifying next year's leadership group, I think coaches can really get excited with what they see. And then everything fell together with Ryan Grubb coming. I think he weathered that first-year storm.
Right.
I mean, I know Shank and we talked about 9 games would be a pretty good year.
When he said that, I'm like, no way. But he was right. Like last year when he was like 8, he said 8 games, but he's like 8-4, right? And I'm like, oh man, we would kill somebody for that. Like, I think it put How's the internet? There we go. All right, we're back. Let's finish your thought. Now we have internet again.
No, I mean, I was saying, the culture that Coach Saban built at Alabama was one way, hard nosed, and you go out there and physically dominate and kick whoever's ass you're playing. I mean,
Right.
it was rough.
He said we elect to kick ass. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's right.
Was that your year that he said that?
I can't remember.
Hope we elect to kick ass. And everybody's like, what the? He can cuss on TV, and the FCC's like, we're not touching this.
Yeah, that's right. ESPN greases a few palms, and they're good to go.
Right. Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's a different mentality, and look, there's a reason why Coach Saban got out when he got out, and I think that
because he's in his 70s.
Well, yeah,
and
but
he's not the same guy he was in his 60s or 50s or 40s, which is
human
nature. Right?
It'd have been worse if he was in his 40s or 50s when that happened. I mean, I heard how high strung he was back then with that mentality. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to keep this age group around when you're pushing guys like that, making guys better, and that verbally motivating, to put it that way. But I mean, Kalen DeBoer, I think he's got that mentality to keep guys around. You saw it in spring practice; didn't lose a single guy after spring.
Yeah, he's likable, dude.
Yeah,
I think he's legitimately. I was thinking about this today. I think he's legitimately a great person, right? And he wants to do the right thing, but I was like thinking to myself, like, what is Alabama football going to look like this year, right? And I guess that kind of transitions in to the next thing I wanted to get into, right? The why play a strength of schedule, right? But let me tell you guys this: we're at Pearl River Resort, the two of us right here, Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. We're gonna hang out there. It's the Augusta you can play, the Azaleas, the Oaks, two amazing golf courses. Philip M. Steakhouse. I'm getting a tomahawk tonight. Just know that. And the chowder, and maybe an old-fashioned. But look, I'm not telling you guys what to order. I'm just telling you, you got it all right here at Pearl River Resort. We're hanging out at the Timeout Sports Lounge, which has all the TVs on right now, all the major sports. People are over there throwing their bets in, the kiosks, got the windows open. And we appreciate everybody for making us feel so at home here. I mean, it's like a home game for us coming here and hanging out. All right, Jake, why play a strength of schedule? And for Alabama, it's like 8 games in the SEC. And then on top of it, you got Florida State, which is going to be a tough game. Gus Malzahn's their offensive coordinator. That's not going to be an easy game for Alabama. And then Wisconsin at home. So you're playing 10 legitimate conference style games. Why do it?
Well, here's you can play for the playoff berth, or you can play to win a national championship. And here's my theory. Why do you think that SEC teams dominate in the playoffs?
Because they play a tough schedule, right? Because they play the best every week.
That's it. I mean, you play in these other conferences. You have 2, sometimes 3 really big games where it's nationally televised, where the intensity is up there with that SEC type atmosphere. Right. The SEC, when you're playing away, doesn't matter who you're playing. It's always going to be a packed house.
Right.
It's going to be a rough game, no matter what. I mean, you may have some Mississippi State games or Missouri games that aren't.
We're not far from state, so don't say that too loud.
When I said it, I realized what I was saying.
Yeah. Like we're like, maybe like a half hour.
Matt wasn't here, so
yeah, Matt. He doesn't even like state. He's a Southern Miss guy.
But I mean, again, it prepares you for that playoff stretch where you're playing good teams week after week. Penn State, you watch them; they're always in that playoff conversation,
right? But they can't play against the good teams.
Yeah, and I'm not saying James Franklin, I think, is a great coach, but Penn State just, if they played the schedule that Alabama, all the SEC schools played every year, then they wouldn't be in that playoff conversation. I think they'd be in that upper level bowl, but they're not looked at as a possible favorite to win the national championship like they are here. They have been recently, but have never lived up to it.
It's a do or die season for them, I feel like, too. Like the for Penn State, But I feel kind of like for Kalen DeBoer, I mean, like this is a season where Bama has to take a step forward.
See, I'm not there yet with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. I mean, I know the turnaround time is not what it used to be, and because of the transfer portal, you can bring guys in, and people expect you to turn it around a lot quicker. Alabama's not going to be an NIL bully, but we're going to carry our own hand, throw our weight around.
Right. We got more money than Auburn, I would think, right?
I mean, I would
maybe
think
not
so.
come from one guy that sells wood, but I mean, we got some cash, right?
And the honorary AD.
Yeah, right. The guy calling the shots. No, but I mean, I feel like when I looked at AL.com put out the list of how much people were spending on recruiting or teams, right?
What did AL.com say? Around 20?
It said Alabama was spending Tennessee and Alabama were 1 and 2 on the amount of money that they were spending just on the recruiting process, right?
Yeah.
It was $5 million something.
A&M and Texas weren't up there?
They weren't up there. It was Alabama and Tennessee by far. Then you had, how much money comes from private donors, and Alabama was right up there as well. I knew that would be the case. It might not be the big donors like maybe Texas and Tennessee have, but we have a huge fan base. People are passionate about Alabama football. And I think there's a lot of people that have resources that are putting in, and they're going to continue to put in if that's what we need them to do.
I mean, I just don't know how that's even possible. Texas A&M, I would feel like they could buy any player they wanted if they wanted them that bad.
They might be able to. They got Arch Manning.
I think you read that same article I did, or a similar article I did earlier about Greg Sankey pulling away from the NCAA.
No, I wasn't even going to bring this up. We're going to tell you guys because you're here hanging with us right now. This guy comes in, and we're just setting up, and I'm taking care of him. I know what type of beer he has. I'm a good partner. He's got a cold beer waiting on him. And he looks at me and he goes, "What do you think about the news?" And I'm like, "The news? What are you talking about?" And he's like, the SEC pulling out of the NCAA. They just announced it. And I'm like, I'm giving you the side eye.
You know what the worst part about this is? Is my dad and his buddy sent it to me right before I walked in.
Throwing your dad under the bus, Brian? I'm sorry for this, man.
And I should have known.
God, and that is not what I expected from you today.
Yeah, because when I walked in here and said that, I looked at the article. It said CBS Sports announces, and then the handle is Bob Does Sports or something like that. I was like, oh my God.
FreddyFootball.com. Man, you fell for that. There's so much fake news out there now, though. I mean, really, when you look at you can't even get on anymore and kind of get a vibe of what's really happening because there's so much fake stuff out there. I'm just glad I'm one of those people that doesn't fall for it. So let me go back to the question that why play a strength of schedule if you're Alabama? Why play at Florida State? Why play against Wisconsin? Why do it?
Well, I mean, look, the SEC still has a brand. I mean, you got to play those big games to stay relevant, to generate revenues. I mean, that's a big game for an SEC school that, do you want Alabama to stay on top of the college football world, which, I mean, look, I know this past year and Coach Saban leaving has taken a shot at us, but we're still Alabama.
Right.
And to me, I want that reputation of anytime, anywhere, anybody, and walk in and beat you in your home stadium if needed.
Right.
I love that mentality. I think you have to be that way in order to stay sharp throughout the season and again, really perform well in those playoff type situations.
Yeah.
I mean, I would absolutely hate it if we were in the ACC or, some other conference where, you didn't have those storied rivalries against teams that still have there's talent spread out around the conference, and people don't take football as seriously as we do.
Right.
I mean, look.
But what I'm saying is this, and I'm not trying to interrupt you, but what I'm saying is when you're taking SMU and they're playing, can I say the term? Is this going to offend you if I say horse shit? their horseshit schedule, and they're getting to play in the playoff, and you go out and play the SEC, and you play, at Wisconsin, and you're playing Florida State, and you're playing, and they're playing cupcake centrals all over the place, and a bad conference.
Okay, I mean, I understand where you're coming from on that.
That's all I'm saying.
But if we played an ACC schedule, I just wouldn't watch.
You would take you know what? For as far as like family time, it'd be great because we don't really have that in the SEC. Like where you're like, well, you know what? We got Boston College this week. Who wants to go fishing?
Yeah, if you want my blunt, honest opinion, I mean, I'm just not going. I'm not watching. I'm not.
You played in the ACC too. You know what I'm talking about.
I mean, the Clemson game was huge. The Miami game was pretty big, even though when we went down to Miami, there was no Miami fans there. I mean, it was a pretty empty stadium. And then we played Florida, and that was always a huge game.
Yeah.
You really count on Clemson and Florida being a big game. But
what about when you guys tangled with the likes of Duke? What about when you guys matched up with Wake Forest?
We did. We got beat at Wake Forest my first year at Florida State.
They've had some good teams every once in a while, right?
Yeah, Wake Forest can be sneaky. Now, of course, that year we weren't supposed to lose, but it wasn't good.
What about when you guys matched up with Virginia?
We lost to Virginia my first year there.
No, come on.
At home.
Let me try it again. What about when you went toe-to-toe with Maryland?
Yeah, didn't lose those guys.
I like Maryland, by the way. That hurts me to say.
I told you we went to Maryland. I told you that story.
Yeah, you can hear the guy yelling. I know. But I knew you guys killed them. So you guys went from being really bad to winning a national championship pretty fast, huh?
Yeah, 3 years. That was Jimbo's first year, my freshman year. And then the next 2 years. No, let's see. I guess it was his. I can't remember if it was his first year or his second year. I think it was his second year. We were his first recruiting class. Let's see. Yeah, I think we went 9-3 or 8-4 and went to the Champ Sports Bowl down in Orlando. I mean, and then saw that whole transition. Next year we went to the Orange Bowl. Then the third year we went to the National Championship. And yeah, it was a different ride. That place changed between year 1 and year 3. When I got there was no indoor facility at Florida State.
Right.
By the time I left, there was a real nice indoor. In the SEC, nobody doesn't have an indoor.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It's weird how that investment thing happens, but you know what? Bobby Bowden's one of the all-time great football guys, and ton of success. I remember as a kid watching Florida State with Bobby Bowden, and they were always there. And if they had the system set up like it is now, they probably would have won more national championships.
And how did Florida State get there? Anytime, any place, play anybody.
Yeah, right. Well, they kind of remind me of.
The BCS that was worse than the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have the points in the BCS standings, you didn't make it.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that football used to be that way. Like the regular season was the playoff, but now that we're kind of letting everybody in, I'm all about letting everybody in, because of this, because you can't, if they're not going to appreciate the strength of schedule, then you need to let all the you need to let all the contenders play. You can't have SMU, and I know they just changed this, basically the way that they're going to seed the tournament, but to have Boise and Arizona State with buys, and you're taking SMU over Alabama, and Bama might have had some bad losses, but that's some great wins too. I mean, come on, man.
I'll say towards the end of the season, I mean, I honestly wouldn't have been opposed to Ole Miss making it in over SMU. I mean,
yeah, yep.
Well, you knew based on the media bias, they were building SMU after that close loss. They were building them into the playoff.
Listening to Dabo, these guys belong in the tournament. I know we beat them, but they belong in. And then both of them got their asses kicked. Get out of here. You remember after the game, he was blowing them up. I liked it. I liked Dabo, but I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I do. I would have hired Dabo as Alabama's coach.
Yeah, that sounded more like a Coach O impression.
That's how I felt, though. That's how I felt. Coach O. I felt very Coach O after the way Dabo kind of dissed us after that game.
He was looking out for himself. Let's keep Alabama out of here, just in case we make it to the second round.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever play Dabo?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Let's go ahead and tell everybody about that.
I can still remember him getting mad about that onside kick in 2016. You remember that?
Yeah. I loved it.
Which I'd never, his argument there, had you ever heard that argument?
No.
You got to allow them the opportunity to catch the ball?
No, I never, because it doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. All I know is that was a great time in Arizona. And Baron Huber was supposed to do the post-game show with me, and I looked over and he was passed out on the chair. And one of our friends was like, we were talking about it, and he's like, I think I have a picture of it, and he did. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with us on the Bama Tailgate Show. We'll bring you more from down here, but look, we're at Pearl River. We're having a great time at the Timeout Sports Lounge, right? Why? Pun intended. All the TVs are on, playing all the major sports. You got the kiosks are open. You got the window open if you want it. There's personal kiosks over there. 20 big screen TVs, full-size bar. Everything you need is right here at Pearl River. And the baseball regionals are coming. Bama's going to Southern Miss and Hattiesburg. You can bet on those games here as well, as long as you're not the baseball coach. All right, that's Jay Coker. I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for hanging, guys. And the other I'm sorry I did that. The other thing I want to add to this before we get out of here is that newlifeart.com, promo code's Bama Tailgate, 20% off any purchase, 20% off Bama Tailgate. Where'd you hear about it? Bama Tailgate at checkout, Bama Tailgate. Take advantage of that, 20% off there. But we appreciate everybody here at Pearl River Resort, and we're going to have fun. We're going to be here. It's going to be exciting.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, everybody.
Escape to Pearl River.